Hello, everyone. Anne from the Easing Spirit here. It's been a few days since I've done a video. And the reason why is because definitely on our journey sometimes when we're doing things, we can get a little bit too much on autopilot, even in your spiritual practices. And when that happens, my guides throw something in my way to slow me down. That is getting you back into the right thought process. So what I decided that I want to talk about today is embracing the chaos. There is a lot of things in our life that will come from chaos. However, if you're capable of looking at the situation of chaos and adjusting the way that you see it, you can absolutely process, or you can absolutely change the way that you process what you're going through. I gave a message at our spiritual support group, mine and my best friend's spiritual support group. It is a practice group as well that we do on Sundays, and we have lots of different people that are a part of it. And some weeks the same people come, and sometimes you only see some sporadically or a couple of times a month. But we have lots of wonderful ladies in there, and my brother, being the only guy, is part of the support group as well. And the message that I received from my guides was that all of us have had something within the last week that happened that was extremely chaotic. And that more is coming, unfortunately. That for the next several weeks, we're going to be experiencing something chaotic on a weekly basis. And then we have to start processing each situation differently than we normally would. We really have to look at it and find the silver lining and find what within that chaotic situation is for your greater good. So to set an example, last week on Friday, I was leaving my neighborhood that I live in to go pick up my daughter from work. And as I was pulling out, the road that I live on, when you're trying to get out into the main street, sometimes can be a little bit sketchy different times of the day, depending upon how thick the traffic is. And somebody stopped to allow me to come out so I could at least get into the turn lane and then assess the traffic that was coming so I could get over. And just as I pulled out and I looked, coming at me head on was a huge red truck that had, you know how there's a lot of times people will get these Mondo sized tires on these big trucks and it jacks them up and it makes them really, really big. And it was a very big truck and it was coming at me head on. And it wasn't just rolling, it was going pretty quick. And automatically, I kind of pulled myself to the left. And I saw that he suddenly pulled to the left. So we were trying to pull away from each other. And his tire, and this will tell you how big he was, his tire punched a hole in my front bumper. And that was the only damage that ended up happening to his truck. He had some of my white paint on his tire. So he stopped, came, turned around, came back to where I was, asked if I was okay. I asked if he was okay. We did our exchange of information and went on about our days. Normally, if this had even been a couple of months ago, well, maybe a little bit longer than that, a few months ago, probably last year. If this had happened to me last year, I would have been super in my head about the situation. I would have been thinking about every possible thing that could have went wrong. You know, I would have been shaken up. My heart would have been pounded in my chest. It would have been all of these things. And the crazy part about it is that my heart rate never elevated during the entire encounter. And I never had a thought process of what could have went wrong. Actually, and it was really funny because my best friend came by later on that evening because we had plans to go out together that night. And she came over and I said, oh, guess what happened to me after I left your house today? And she said, what? And I said, I got in a car accident. And I kind of laughed and she looked at me all crazy and she was like, what happened? And I told her, and as I'm laughing about it, she goes, you almost seem happy. And I said, really, honestly, in a lot of ways I am. Because I saw the situation for what it was. It was something of chaos that definitely came into my life. But instead of me processing it the way I would have processed it in the past, I actually saw the silver lining to it and realized, wow, look how far I've came in just a matter of months, that I wasn't all shook up and stuff. I mean, for years I was treated for anxiety. I had high anxiety, not just a little bit of anxiety, high anxiety. And I had it my entire life, and I was on medication for it for, gosh, the better part of, I want to say like between 20 and 25 years. And I had been taking the highest dose you could take of the medication that I was on. And so I think back and think to myself, I've came so far in this journey of self-healing, of trusting the process, of knowing that things happen in life for a reason and we have no control over it, and that we have to see things through a different lens to process things appropriately. And it just blew my mind how amazing I felt, even though I had just been in a car accident. And sure, it did a little boo-boo on my car. I also believe that, that had a lot to do with karma too. It had to do with how I live my life every day, and how that energy that was moving forward towards me, I want to say the velocity of it was pulled back because of where I am in my life and the things that I've done and the karma that I carry, right? We all carry karma in us. A lot of times the karma that we will carry will belong to other people from the things that they've done to us in situations, or rather, I don't want to say to us, because things that happen to us are things that we allow. Although through the process, when something happens, whether somebody has been deceitful, dishonest, unloyal, mistrusting, whatever, they've done something that puts imbalance in your relationship with them. No matter whether it's a coworker, a family member, a spouse, a brother, a sister, a friend, whoever, has caused some type of mix in your relationship. Now, you at that time make the decision whether you want to continue on with the person or not. Is this a one-time thing? Is this going to be a constant? We have to make those assessments. However, when we do decide whether we're going to stay in the relationship or not, we have to do a couple of things. And the first one is, of course, decide whether you want to stay in that relationship with that person or not. And the other part is when you make that decision to stay or not stay, you have to heal it, right? You have to heal the hurt that you felt from the situation so that you're not carrying that negative energy in you any longer. But you also have to remove the karma that gets attached to you from that. It's not your karma, it's theirs, right? So you have to pull that away from yourself and give that back to the person, or put it out in the universe, or transmute it into something else. Whatever it is, you have to remove that from yourself. So being in the car accident made me look at chaos in a different way. I've had lots of chaotic situations in my life, right? Where now I'm going through a divorce of a second marriage. I've lost a child. Well, I've actually lost more than one child, although the second one wasn't my biological. He was my step, but I loved him as if he was my own. So I've lost a child at infancy, and then I've lost a stepchild as a grown man. But I've been through many things in my life that have been very, very chaotic. And some of those are just, the high end of chaos. We can be visited by small chaos every day, which is exponentially what's happening to everybody right now. Because it's with, what is it, Mercury being in retrograde and coming out of retrograde, and the moon phases, and we're in, I want to say, I can't remember, I don't want to quote this and be wrong, but a 9-year or an 8-year or 9-year that's ending. So that means that things are ending and new cycles are going to be beginning. And that's part of astrology, right? I actually am going to be taking a cosmic course, hopefully in the next couple of weeks here. So that's going to help me to build my knowledge base in that portion, because a friend of mine who's extremely knowledgeable in astrology is going to give a course, and I'm going to take it from her. So that's going to teach me that piece too. But there's so many things that are going on right now in the universe. We've been having crazy weather. We had those fires in California that were just like not at a time that you would expect fires to be in California, right? And we had recently here in Washington been hit with a storm that, was saying there was potential of having tornadoes and stuff like that. And granted, there was some places that got it much worse than others. I mean, we barely saw anything in that storm, but there are areas of Washington that did get hit hard enough with that it left chaos in its wake, right? So all of these things that are going on, they're all being ramped up for many reasons. And one of them being that the cosmos is trying to kind of reset everything and reset everybody. Mother Earth is trying to reset herself. So there's lots of things that are going to be going on. This week starting, I already, was having a little bit of a hiccup of a personal situation in my life, right? And so, don't look at chaos as just being only major things. Understand that. And that's the beauty of it, is there are chaotic situations that will come in your life that are small enough that you can really look at them and understand what piece they represent for your greater good, right? Like the accident, what piece that represented for my greater good was letting me know how far I am now on my journey, that I was able to process that accident and not just totally lose myself in it and feel so overwhelmed and discombobulated from it, right? I actually got giddy about knowing that I had came as far as I have in my journey to being a different person, that I can live free now of my medication and know that nothing, And I will say this, that nothing's going to come to me that I can't process on my own, no matter what that looks like. You know, and I don't look at death the same as I used to. I don't have a fear of dying anymore. It's really funny. I recently had a palm reading, and the girl who read my palm, she also pulled my tarot cards, and she also read my runes, and all of it was extremely enlightening. You know, she told me things that I needed to know in my business life and my personal life, romantic life, however, you know, personal, romantic. She told me things that I had questions on that were just kind of hanging in the air for me, right? And I got some answers that were very profound. The reading, all three of the readings were amazing. She gave me information that, and I thought to myself, you can look, and I couldn't believe how accurate she was about my life and the person that I am. She doesn't know me. We don't know each other. But the person that I am, just from reading my palm, just from looking at a picture, I sent her a picture of my palm, and then the back of my hand. And she did my reading from it, and the accuracy of the information that she put forth, my personality type, how passionate I am, how sensual I am, how driven, and I mean, just all of it. It was absolutely fascinating to see that she got that just from reading my palm. But I do know that I have got something coming. My best friend and I, we have talked about it. She has been saying to me over and over that she knows that there is a spiritual 2x4 that's coming for me. And I know it's coming. I don't know exactly what it looks like. We've been talking about it for months. I just know that I know it's coming. And when it gets here, I'm going to process. That's the best that I can do, is process, right? And I'm going to do the best I can between now and then to look at the other chaotic situations in my life and understand when I can learn from that and what those chaotic situations will be bringing to my greater good, so that then as other things happen in my life, my visual of things is different. My lens that I'm looking through will be different. It'll be more clear. I'll understand more. I'll be able to process it in a better way. So, you know, I know that that's kind of an odd thing to say, to embrace your chaos, but I definitely challenge you to do that, because when you're capable of pulling something apart when it happens and being able to look at it and understand why it's happening or what part of that is going to be for your greater good. And don't get me wrong, sometimes chaotic situations can be so devastating and so life-rocking that it may be a little while before we understand why it happened, right? We may not be able to see the why right away. It might take a little while. The only thing that I suggest to you is don't shut the door on the possibility, right? Because there is a piece of that chaos that is meant for your greater good. You just don't see it yet. So always keep that door open, so that when it finally does come around full circle and you see it, you're going to be, oh, that's why. And it'll make sense, you know? Don't be a victim from your situations or the things that happen in life. Don't be a victim from it. Always be striving to figure out the greater good of each thing that you go through. It makes the process so much easier. We are introduced into this duality so that we can experience those things, because where we come from is all light. There is no darkness there. There is no negativity there. There is no hardship, no grief, no sorrow, no pain, no suffering. It's all light. And so when we're within this existence, if we can learn to understand how to roll with the punches, as you would call it, and process the chaos, it makes our human existence a lot easier to get through the difficult times. So I don't know if this resonated with anyone today. It was a talk that I've had in my head for the last couple of days of what that might look like, and I just wanted to pop on here for a moment because I know I haven't posted for, I don't know, I think it's like 3 days. But like I said, you know, when you're on your spiritual journey too, you tend to find yourself in that autopilot, and once that happens, your guides will be like, no, you're not doing that anymore. You're going to step back from it, because what you're doing now is you're getting yourself into something that you're not actually being in the now. You're just doing the process because you've gotten used to it. And I want this to be fun. I want it to be fun and uplifting for myself and for everybody who watches my videos and listens. So if I gave you something from this today, that's absolutely great. Then I feel like I did my job. I do want to encourage you to click subscribe below so you'll be notified when I do post new videos. You can reach me here by leaving a message on any one of my videos or by the email that is in my profile. You can also reach me on Facebook for my business page, which is also called The Easing Spirit. So I thank everybody who did join today, and I say live every day in love and light, and namaste. Bye.